Good late Tuesday, early Wednesday. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, giving you a look at that current Doppler radar picture across North Florida, South Georgia, really getting a little into Central Florida too. But you can see most of the shower action here across our viewing circle, kind of wrapping on up a little bit more there, concentrated in northwestern parts of Levy County there. But overall, a situation that's not too robust or too widespread, anything like that. That's some good news for sure. But we'll keep watching things into Wednesday. I know could have some more storms kind of evolve on us here again as we're looking ahead later in toward Wednesday. But hopefully they won't be as potent as what we saw here across Bradford County Tuesday night. I know officially no warnings in play, but unfortunately sometimes it's kind of hard to tell in the Doppler exactly how strong the winds are there. Got pretty ferocious there for a few moments there though in that 8 o'clock hour. In fact, Bradford County Fire Rescue there reporting some of the issues here earlier on, and I'll go ahead and show you now a look at some of that damage there. They said that they were responding to multiple reports of trees and power lines down, as well as flooding. So they were urging folks to use extreme caution of traveling on the roadways. So this kind of tells the story here, folks. So what was going on? I know there were quite a few reports of road obstructions there, according to the Bradford County Sheriff's Office dispatch. So a lot of those dealing either in trees and or power lines, I would think, just based on that in connection with this report. And also, I know we had the gusty winds here where we're at around 827 or so. Let's kind of look at some video from one of my cameras I have here in the area in eastern Bradford County. And we ended up having a gust here to 34 miles an hour, but keep in mind that's only at about 6 feet here, folks, only about 6 feet. I mean, off the ground. So as the situation here, really, if you extrapolate upward there, 33 feet is where a lot of anemometers are. This is a combination, so really a good kind of compromise there in some ways. But at 33 feet, if you kind of extrapolate out the winds, instead of a 34-mile-an-hour gust, you would have a gust there just on the cusp of severe limits, So again, kind of telling that weather story there for sure, as we're looking at some of this video from earlier on. And in the 2.5 years I've had that anemometer, it is the third highest wind gust that we've had here recorded at this location, higher than any other severe thunderstorm situation. The highest two gusts were during Nicole there, back last November, 42 and 41 miles per hour there on that day. So a 34-mile-an-hour gust, the third highest recorded on that gauge here in about 2.5 years. So I know it's take a severe warning to have some problems. Going to end up having those damage reports, though, I think, come on into those local storm reports here eventually as we look ahead into the timeline. Just quite a few different issues here across the county tonight that we were keeping tabs on for you. I know we posted about it on Facebook as it was really ramping up there, and then we jumped in. I know some of the damage had already happened for sure at that point, but we were getting the gust here, and we just knew that this storm was overachieving here. So it's really tricky, though, really tricky for everybody there. I know the Weather Service, they do a great job. They really try hard. It's just sometimes things are a little bit tough to tell. I mean, it was hard for me to tell, Roy, even because it's not the exact signature you would expect. But I think there was kind of an extra forcing in there to get the winds down to the surface there for a bit. Some different interactions happening, and that can definitely be an issue here from time to time. So again, one more look at that damage from Bradford County Fire Rescue. Kind of telling the stories from that tree debris around, but had some trees down. There was even a report. Apparently, I'll go back over to their page and kind of gather more on this just to make sure I'm giving you guys the right information. But looking over there, I just want to make sure I get this right here factually. They were saying here earlier on that apparently a tree there, one of those that fell in the roadway in the area of State Road 16 and Northeast 12th Avenue, was one where a vehicle ended up running into the tree, so kind of an accident there. So firefighters at that point there around, it looks like 8:53, were working to clear the large tree from the roadway. So kind of telling a story. You got to be careful out there in these type of situations at night with the rain. And then you have flooding hazards from time to time, and then sometimes you have hazards from the trees just falling there. That's just, I know when you have all these trees around, that's kind of an issue here that you have to be mindful of. Again, this image courtesy of Bradford County Fire Rescue. Just want to make sure we give proper credit there to where the images and information is coming from. But as we go ahead and see the Doppler radar You can see here things have calmed down in terms of rainfall amounts. We had almost 4 inches there back Sunday, late Sunday, and then a good bit of rain on Monday, but nothing like what we had here on Sunday or Tuesday. And then Tuesday there, as we're now in early Wednesday, we ended up having a good amount of rain across much of Bradford County, through that area there, just from around Rayford and off toward the east there, especially seeing closer to 4 inches on rare estimates. And then north of Sampson there, closer to 3 inches. A Stark, closer to 2 in town, and just east of town estimated a little over 2, and that's about what we got here where we're at. So pretty much in line, maybe a little bit higher than this, but pretty much in line for what we got here. A good bit of run, another deluge here toward parts of the area. So just kind of telling that story there as we look down toward Alachua County, over 4 inches last 12 hours. That was near Orange Heights and off toward the east. So quite a bit of rain there. Northern Marion County, some areas 4 or 5 inches as well, according to radar, as we're looking just off toward the east of Spar. So not completely confined to Bradford, but so far, based on the information I'm getting in anyway from my sources, there was at least a lot of damage here compared to other spots. And we had that considerable severe thunderstorm warning we had to go on for earlier in the afternoon in Georgia. I hadn't seen reports from there yet, but it's definitely possible they'll eventually trickle one in there as we're looking back toward Clinton County, Atkinson County, Ware County there. I mean, just kind of looking at things, the rainfall was in play up there too, and there were some power outages reported like there were on Bradford, but no official reports in the local storm report system at this point. But again, sometimes it takes a little bit of time, so we'll just continue to look for those as we get ahead there in the timeline. But let's go ahead now and get in a little bit further into toward the show here, Roy. Let me go ahead and kind of see where else we want to go with this. I know some of this stuff's kind of more fluid than we normally have on this update, because we just had this storm come through here. This storm has come to the 8 o'clock hour, especially yet again. I mean, it was the 8 o'clock hour that are back on Sunday night as well. So kind of interesting to have this right at sunset there. 2 out of the last 3 nights being pretty robust. Again, you extrapolate that wind, and you have a situation where instead of 34 miles an hour, really, these winds, I mean, if you have a gauge up higher, which is what is at a lot of professional sites there, this one's all-in-one type of a deal here, so you kind of want to compromise a little bit. So 6-7 feet is about where you want to put that, but 33 feet, the wind's quite a bit higher up there. That's where a lot of the wind measurements come from, or are supposed to there in the Weather Enterprise, and that means the wind's really we would have had a gust probably more in the mid-50 range, which would be right on that cusp of severe limits. So a pretty nasty storm there for sure. It's, again, hard to tell, though, looking at radar. Sometimes these things happen here this time of year in North Florida, South Georgia. But let's get over toward that rainfall forecast now. You'll be able to see what we're expecting over the next 7 days. A lot of this shorter period than that toward Missouri. We're expecting a pretty significant flooding threat potentially there between about Columbia, St. Louis, somewhere in there. Could get down in southeast Missouri, southern Illinois too. And even you see East Tennessee, that could be pretty serious for them if they get winter rain there pretty quick. In western North Carolina, those are areas that aren't necessarily going to handle that rainfall draining too easy. So keep that in mind. So we'll be watching for that here. You see some South Florida maximums showing up as well. Central Florida there, 1 to 2 inches. North Florida, South Florida, the same deal, 1 to 2 inches on average here over the next 7 days. I mean, a few spots, you can make the argument more like a half an inch there on average, but a lot of those are getting closer toward that inch mark there as you kind of get up on that scale, and then getting even a little bit above that here at points. So again, we'll watch and we'll be tracking. It's all about local variability too. This time of year, this is not the easiest forecast to put out there. I mean, because things are going to really vary from one backyard to the other. So I just kind of keep that in mind here. Going to keep that in mind as we're looking at things, as we're kind of assessing the situation here. You just kind of have to, I mean, look, because you do see a few spots there that's a half inch. It might not be those that are at that, but some probably will be, and some will probably even quite a bit higher than what this is showing. Instead of like about 2 inches, I mean, some areas could get 3-4 inches like what we saw tonight. So, and one night, and this is for 7 days. So it's tricky this time of year. But let's go ahead and say, you guys, a look at the tropics now. Let's go ahead and give you guys a look here at that tropical climatology. You can see that peak of hurricane season there in early to mid-September, on September 10th. Right now, nothing too concerning out there, but we'll keep our eyes on things. Don't have any new names to mark here in the Atlantic, and on the Pacific, they actually have Dora, which is ironic. We had Dora in the Atlantic in '64, but that's not used out in this area anyway. I know we kind of all know probably what happened there with Dora in '64 hitting the Jacksonville area. The last hurricane there to make a direct landfall on the Atlantic coast there in northeast Florida. So again, that's crazy to even say that. It's been that long, but we've been lucky. Gotta keep making sure we're prepared though. But storms, big impacts from the west coast and the like, and from other areas here coming on in. Irma comes to mind, of course. But just the nature of things here. We'll just have to keep looking here at this list there and seeing what names and which ones the storms that we're watching are maybe more consequence. Hopefully not, but could be a situation really where you have the warmer water temperatures. Those warmer water temperatures come into play, so you could really get a storm to build up if it's able to take advantage of less shear at points. But in other situations, I mean, if you have a lot of shear around, that could limit the number of storms here. I know it's kind of a tricky situation. It's just about if the storms can find a sweet spot, per se, for the lack of a better term, with the wind shear. If there's not enough wind shear to disrupt things, the heat's there to cause problems. With storms becoming powerful now, do they track this way? That's another factor. The steering currents, I mean, like Andrew at 92. I know we always say it. I mean, that storm was so long ago now. We always say it every year about Andrew, though. It only takes one storm, no matter how active or inactive the season is in terms of the number. Andrew is just something folks will never forget, as they shouldn't forget. As you see our 7-day forecast here, 50% chance of rain on that Wednesday, 40% on that Thursday. Going up, though, toward that weekend, the temperature's going up, too, which isn't always the case, so more humid air coming into play. Above average, still. This pattern's been a hot one, and we're going to stay pretty hot, so definitely can have some more ferocious storms at times. So whenever thunder roars are going indoors, and then again could have heat advisory type threats, maybe an excessive heat warning in there. I mean, don't want to rule it out since we've already had some here. Looking back and in the period too toward the Tallahassee area, so just make sure you're drinking plenty of water. Wear those light colored, loose fitting clothes there if you're gonna be outside for much time at all. And those elderly, those children there are more vulnerable to the heat, so keep that in mind. And speaking of children, I know it's about time for back to school. Some areas going back to school here right about now. I mean, as we're looking there toward part of the reviewing circle, so let's go ahead and pull up our covered map just to kind of reiterate that to everybody at home. I mean, as we're kind of thinking about things, in that back to school setup, I mean, we'll be looking, I know a lot of the counties toward Bradford go back. Today's Wednesday, the 2nd of August. A lot of them around Bradford go back the Thursday of next week, August 10th. So that's just something to keep in mind there. I know in Florida, tax-free holidays still in play for those school supplies too. So something to kind of touch on. And we'll have another disaster preparedness supply tax holiday as we look ahead. Kind of something new here, more than one of those as we get here later on in that timeline. We'll be talking about that more as we get closer toward that period. But just make sure your hurricane gets up to date here. Anyway, I mean, you don't want to be caught here, and then all of a sudden we have a storm develop, and the cone of concern starts pointing this way. The batteries could go pretty quick. So, I mean, don't just stock up now with a whole bunch of stuff, but get what you need just to make sure that hurricane kit is up to date. So, let's go ahead now and move away from the covered map, I think. We'll get you guys back on over towards some of our other tools that we have in our toolkit, like the Doppler radar. You can see here that Doppler technology. Still some showers there. Still a little heavier action in northwestern Levy County, but not too big of a deal. So that's the good news nationally. We'll be watching to see how the flood threat comes together in Missouri, for instance. That's going to be a big storyline as we get ahead here in the coming days. So just keep that in mind here as we are looking at things. Here. Just to make sure you're not caught off guard by that. I don't want to be caught off guard by that here. And we'll be watching our local threats here too, as we always do here from the Weather Center. I think that pretty much does it for tonight. Just making sure we have all of our information kind of figured on out here in terms of relaying that to you guys, the viewers at home. I just want to make sure nothing new, because it has been a pretty fluid situation here tonight. We've been keeping our tabs on keeping tabs on. So again, that's going to do it for now. We'll go ahead and leave you the list of all the different platforms that we're on. Facebook, Casey Cloud Jackson. I gave the heads up there, and same with Cloud Weather. On Facebook, it's dangerous during November. That significant weather advisory when it first came into play for Stark proper. And then right after, we got that gust here a few minutes later, and then we came on after that because becoming clear that this is becoming a more of a damaging type impact. I don't use those words lightly, but again, it's a situation here where we were getting some reports of damage and ended up getting quite a few, it seems. And those will be tallied up here later on. So again, we'll be keeping tabs on everything, and when severe weather threatens and breaks here, we'll make sure we're streaming coverage as needed as well on Twitter, there, YouTube, Twitch, and in our website. All the different links available, and an interactive radar is available there too.